Everybody to look. Okay, let's try that again. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lower Gwinnett Township Board of Supervisors regular meeting for May the 25th, 2021. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America,
to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just please be aware tonight's meeting is being video recorded as always. First up on the agenda is a discussion of in-person meetings started June 22nd. There's a lot of discussion about what this means, and I was over the township office the other day. We had a discussion about this because it looks like we now have to go to in-person meetings. Now, Jamie, can you talk to us a little bit about the governor's order and what that means?
Sure, and Neil might be a better person to speak to this, but so the declaration, the emergency declaration that Governor Wolf had issued is granted us the authority to hold virtual meetings during the pandemic. When the emergency declaration expires, so too then would that ability to hold virtual meetings. We would revert back to the public meetings being held in person.
Okay, Neil, we had some referendums that were on the latest election, primary election day. Could you explain to us exactly, or if it's possible to explain with any specificity what exactly the expiration of the governor's order means given the election?
Well, actually, with regard to land use meetings, we think that holding them virtually is still an option for municipalities. However, with regard to, and we think that's applicable only to quasi-judicial boards. So when this board acts in its official capacity, it's acting more legislative than in a quasi-judicial manner. So yes, the board should be back to having in-person meetings, given the governor's latest proclamation. However, I also read the proclamation to say that there is still a limitation on capacity in terms of the meeting room. So that would be applicable nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. And could you talk to us briefly about all the subcommittees? We have a number of them. Parks and Rec, for example, EAC. Do public meetings have to be held at like they normally do, the township office, or can they still be Zoom?
They still, for the time being, can still be Zoom meetings.
Do we have any idea when that that will expire, or we're still looking for clarification on that?
There's the latest proclamation provided for an additional 90 days.
Oh, okay. So that would get us through the summer. So it looks like maybe sometime in the fall, if we have to go back to in-person meetings. So that would be, I think, beneficial to a number of people, especially during the summer. So are there any discussions from any members of the Board of Supervisors? Any questions?
Is there anything from preventing us from authorizing ourselves, I guess, to hold public meetings virtually, or to give it as an option to allow members of the community who maybe aren't vaccinated or don't feel comfortable, or due to size capacity restrictions can't be in the actual township building present to participate?
That would be fine. The only exception might be in a quasi-judicial setting, like a conditional use proceeding, for example, but I think even then it would be permissible.
So there is the option to give ourselves leeway as far as if we wanted to continue on Zoom or allow the public who can't be present to participate via Zoom?
Yes.
Do we need to
Okay.
make a motion or a resolution?
Well, I think there's a technical issue with this too, right? So we have the ability to have a hybrid meeting. When I said hybrid meeting, staff can be present while the Board of Supervisors has a meeting for those that want to attend in the township building and still have the public attend. But we don't have the capacity to have hybrid meetings for the rest of our boards because we either have to be all Zoom or all in person. We don't have the technical bandwidth to conduct the hybrids because that's going to require staff to be present to coordinate those hybrid meetings. So we can't really do it.
What do you mean by staff have to be present or not present? It's done electronically.
Jamie?
Well, if you're talking about the hybrid, if there's people in the building, like if they're in the meeting room, in order to facilitate a Zoom option, staff would have to be in there to run the camera and then also log on to Zoom and administer Zoom at the main meeting room. So like when we go in, like the cam, so right now it's just my picture on the screen, but what it would be the whole dais, and then whoever's sitting at it would be projected on the screen, and they would conduct their meeting in person, and then it would be visible to people that are joining the meeting through Zoom. So somebody still has to be in the building and has to be running the camera and working the computer, signing into Zoom and
So the
joining the
camera is not able to function remotely. You have to physically be there to turn the camera on. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, it works through like the panel that's on the I'll have to look at it. Maybe I can get it. I wonder if I can get it. Could maybe get it on like a device. Like I maybe could put it on my phone or something. I'll have to check.
So they're
But
potentially,
right now, it's the way it's set up right now. You would have to be in the building.
so potentially there is the option for somebody to be able to remotely be there. But regardless, what you're saying is that technology exists so that it could be available on Zoom and in person. It's just
Right, but it's
about
still not gonna eliminate the staff member having to connect everybody.
So if people can't participate because of the restrictions to size, then is
Then
it
you
a
would have-
true public hearing? Is it a true public meeting if people aren't allowed in there because of those restrictions? That's my question. I guess, Neil, that might be a question for you.
Yeah, it's a public meeting because it's open to the public, notwithstanding that somebody may not be able to attend that meeting. It doesn't affect the public nature of the meeting.
Okay.
So really, this is a wait and see, but it doesn't look like we can, at least right now, it doesn't look like we can have all hybrid meetings, is what I'm saying. So that's gonna be an issue. So for non-Board of Supervisors meetings, when the Zoom option ends, we can do it, but all the other meetings are gonna have to resume their normal meeting in-person schedules, at least as things stand right now. Okay. Are there any more questions for members of the board?
I just for clarification, then for this board, then are they going to continue as virtual until the order is lifted, or
Well, I'd like
are
to
we going to
continue.
invest?
I would like to go hybrid, but if the order's in place, we don't have a restriction on hybrid. Is that right, Neil?
There's no restriction on hybrid that I'm aware of.
So we could do a hybrid meeting. It's a question of what the Board of Supervisors wants to do. For the Board of Supervisors meetings, that's the only one I'm talking about here. So we can do all in person, we can do hybrid, or we can stay Zoom. So is there a preference for the Board of Supervisors?
And we think by September it's going to be lifted regardless.
Hard to predict, but I would think so, given the number of people that are being vaccinated and the rate of vaccination.
I would be in favor of staying Zoom through the summer with the expected increase in travel by everybody. And it would be easier if somebody is traveling and if there's a conflict, they can be on Zoom. I'm involved with another one on Tuesday, and a board member is going to be away, but she's bringing her tablet and she's going to be on Zoom. So my personal opinion is stay on Zoom this summer and go in person in September.
Agree with you, Mr. Brandt.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that's the way we'll do it then. Thank you very much. Next up is the receipt of the minutes for May 11th and May 12th.
Sorry.
That's not making sense to me, Jamie.
I'm sorry. We have one question from the public.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is Deborah Schaefer, and I would just like some clarification, Mark, on your language, and I don't know if this should come from Neil. When you say you have to resume in person, doesn't the local governing board get to decide how they want to do it? Why is it must resume in person?
I don't believe we have the option. The coronavirus gave us the option, and I think that option goes away. Neil, can you speak to that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why, with this technology, why don't you extend that option so that, this is a great way to have our senior citizens who might be homebound participating on a more regular basis. And I'm not, that's what I'm asking. Is this some sort of order that meetings be held in person from the point of?
I'm going to let Neil answer that question, but I think the answer is the authority to do it goes away. But Neil, could you give us an answer?
Yeah, this is sort of new territory. The governor's original proclamation provided the option to the board to do, well, actually mandated that the board conduct meetings virtually. When the governor's proclamation, emergency proclamation is lifted, presumably 90 days from now, we suspect that that option will go away or be eliminated. So it's entirely possible that 90 days from now, the board will no longer have the option to conduct meetings virtually.
But it's not, his proclamation mandated in Zoom meetings. It's going away doesn't necessarily mandate. I mean, is that language there that mandates that meetings must be back in person? That's, I hate to sound like I'm splitting hairs, but just because it's lifted does not necessarily imply that in-person meetings are then mandated. That's all. That's what I want clarification on.
Yes, I think when the governor's emergency declaration is lifted, we will revert back to the standard open meetings law and Sunshine Act that generally requires public meetings to be held in the open and not virtually. But again, we're speculating as to what might happen 90 days from now.
Okay. I guess that'll have to suffice. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interplay of a variety of different laws. And we don't know right now what the final product is going to look like.
Okay, thank you.
Deborah, would it be something that we should look into to provide the public Zoom access to our meetings going forward?
I absolutely think so, because in terms of open meetings and sunshine laws, the more people who have access, the more open it is. And, you know, if a kindergarten teacher can get the technical support for hybrid learning, I think the board can probably manage that. There's got to be somebody who is managing your technology that can show at least one person per meeting, even in those subcommittee meetings, how to turn on a camera and then host a Zoom meeting. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
And thank you, Deborah. Are there any more questions, Jamie, from the audience? Any more hands raised?
I do not see any.
Okay, thank you very much. Next order of business is the receipt of the minutes. Now, Jamie, my agenda says May 11th and May 12th.
Right, so the minutes before the board tonight are the minutes from the May 11th Board of Supervisors meeting, and then the May 12th joint Board of Supervisors and Park and
Oh,
Rec.
the joint board.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, so are there any questions from the board?
Yes. I had a question about whether or not the letter that was read to the board in the last Board of Supervisors meeting should be attached or somehow written into the minutes. Or what, I don't know what the usual procedure is.
All right, so I understand what you're saying. So that letter should be in the minutes. We can
Or at
do-
least the part that was read.
I'm sorry, Kathy, you broke up. Say again.
At least the part that was actually read. I don't think she got
Okay.
through the entire letter.
I think she was interrupted before she got through the letter, but you're right, Kathleen, she didn't get through the whole letter. But I don't know if there's a legal precedence for including a letter like that or not. Maybe Neil can help us with that.
Yeah, minutes do not have to be a verbatim record of what transpired at the meeting. They only need to be a summary. So it's completely up to the board whether or not you want to include the entire letter or just a portion of the letter or not include it at all.
I would request that we at least attach the letter to the minutes.
Well, let's table this because I think we've done it more than one way in the past. Because now we do have an electronic record, as opposed to in the past, we had no electronic record. So I think this is the first time that this has come up. So let's table the minutes and let's have a discussion with staff and legal to figure out what we need to do. Because if this comes up again, we got to make sure we understand exactly how we're going to handle it.
Well, is there
So,
a legal precedent either way if we decide to include it this time and not next time, Neil?
No.
So there's no
No.
legal precedent, so we could just do what we chose. Should we just vote on it?
Well, what you're saying is we can decide the same type of issue two different ways and it doesn't matter.
Yes.
I'm saying however we decide to do it, that's the way it should be. And we should include or not include letters like that in the future to be appended to the minutes, if we so choose to do that. Right? So I don't want to have the same issue be decided two different ways. That's the only issue I have.
Do you want to create a policy?
Yeah, we could create a policy for it. Sure.
Okay.
So that's why I'm recommending we table this until we figure it out.
I make a motion to table the issue of whether or not to attach the letter to our minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Danielle?
I'm opposed.
Okay. So noted, thank you. Moving on. Receipt of the year-to-date budget report and balance sheet for January and February.
Mark, did you want to vote on the May 12th minutes? The May 11th were the ones with the letter. The May 12th is the joint board meeting. And
Yeah,
Um,
we should.
yeah, let's do that. So what we're saying is the May 12th is where the letter was read, or was that the May 11th?
May
Yeah,
11th.
Yeah, that was the May 11th.
Okay. All right, so we table May 11th. Any questions on May the 12th? No? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, year-to-date budget report and balance sheet for January and February. Are there any questions from members of the board?
No.
Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Next up, it's a resolution to submit a grant to study the Wissahickon School District Dam. Now, some of you may or may not know this, that there is a dam behind the middle school over there. And there's a walking path. You can go back in, at least I believe you can go back. It's a public path and look at the dam. It's owned by the school district. And in a flooding event, there's a lot of water that's collected at that dam, and it tends to release it all at once. So the dam is also, it's thought that the dam was probably not sufficiently sized for the work that it's doing. So when I've had discussions with various engineers, we decided that it might be a good idea to study this, but we couldn't because we don't own the dam. The dam is owned by the school district. So in discussions with the school district, they've agreed that we can take a look at this dam and that we can submit a grant to see if we can get some funding to view the capacities and engineering around that dam. And that's what this grant is all about. Because right below the dam is many of our neighbors in Lower Gwinnett, and there's also neighbors downstream in Ambler, and Ambler's had some flooding events in the past too. So if there's something we can do around this dam as a joint project, we want to see if we can do that. So that's why it's on there. Are there any questions concerning the grant?
No, I just think it's a good study and something that's probably long overdue. And I'd make a motion to submit a grant study for resolution 2021-11.
Thank you. Mr. Hirsch, our engineer, do you have anything to say about this study?
You took it all, Mark. The good thing about the study is that in addition to potentially being able to do something to the dam to alleviate some of the downstream flooding, we could also get some credit for MS4 for our obligation to improve water quality by providing extended detention. And we had discussions with Susan Harris last time we met, and she agrees. She's a part of the QUIP, Mark. I know you're aware of that.
Right.
And so, potentially a two birds with one stone situation. So that's the only thing I have to add.
A lot of benefit to the community. Okay.
Mark,
Yes,
I have a
Dustin.
question. Yeah, so we're gonna pass a resolution to look into a grant and apply for this grant, and that grant is going to allow us to do an engineering study on the dam to see if it can be improved or whatever the outcome may be. And then what is the outcome beyond that? Do we go back to the school system and, divide the cost, or
So,
what is going to
Tessie,
happen?
I can help you with that. So the grant that we're applying for is the flood mitigation program. It's from the Commonwealth Financing Authority. There's two arms of that grant. There's a study arm, which we're applying to now, and then there is a construction and implementation arm. So should this study yield practical things that can be done to the dam, then we could go and apply to the construction arm of the grant and get some funding to implement. And at that point, we would be talking to the school district, and we'd be talking to also some downstream entities to see if they'd be willing to partner with us and help out with the grant match. I can think of one big one down there that would benefit from this, Ambler Yards.
Only.
Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yes, I just wanted to know what the strategic plan is for following up on this. Okay. I didn't want us to have to obviously pay for the whole thing.
Right, and that's why we asked the school for both permission and partnership, because they own it. And of course, they don't want to be in the damn business, right? I didn't mean it that way, but anyway.
Get that in the
So,
minutes.
Yeah.
We also have a letter of support from the school district for this grant application. So that not only did they say they'd give us permission to study, they also wrote us a letter of support. So they're fully behind the project.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank
Are
you.
there any questions from the member of the audience?
I don't see any.
Okay, we've had a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Annual traffic signal maintenance. I thought I saw her try. Yeah, Chad is here. So Chad, you're going to be up for a couple of them here. Could you talk to us about this?
Good evening, everybody. Earlier this spring, the board authorized us to bid documents for the township to bring on a signal maintenance contractor for annual preventative maintenance work. We've prepared those bid documents along with staff, and we're seeking authorization this evening to put that out to bid for the township to, over the next couple months, go through the process of selecting a signal maintenance contractor based on the bids you receive. So right now, just asking for authorization to put out the bid, and then we would come back after bids are received with our recommendation for award.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of the board?
Nope.
Any questions from the public?
I don't see any.
Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Authorization to for a submission of an Arley grant. Chad.
Sure. Thank you. The next couple items are interrelated with each other. Also, back in the early spring, the board authorized us to do a review of all the signalized intersections within the township to identify potential projects to pursue PennDOT grant funds for improvements. There's two primary programs that PennDOT offers on an annual basis. One is referred to ARLI, which is funding made available through the state's automated red light enforcement program. The state takes a cut of all the tickets in jurisdictions that are issued through video ticketing and make some of that money available to municipalities for projects. The other is referred to as Green Light Go. It's another funding program PennDOT typically offers on an annual basis for traffic signal projects for municipalities. Based on the review that we conducted, we're recommending 2 projects for the township to pursue that we feel should be high priorities. One is the full modernization of the traffic signal at the intersection of Penland Pike and Trewellen Avenue, Old Penland Pike. And the other intersection is Norristown Road and Tennis Avenue. We're recommending that the township submit a grant application for the Penland Pike Trewellen Avenue intersection for Arley, which the next round opens on June 1st of this year with applications due on June 30th. And if the township, we recommend for the Green Light Go program, which we're anticipating will occur in the fall of this year. It was suspended at the beginning of the pandemic temporarily, but the anecdotal information that we're receiving is that it will resume again this fall. And we're recommending that the township submit an application in the fall for the intersection of Norristown Road and Tennis Avenue. So we're seeking authorization this evening to proceed with completing and submitting the grant applications for each of those intersections for each of those PennDOT grant programs.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the supervisors?
Yes, can you explain, Chad, why those, why the work needs to be performed? What is it about the intersection and the lights?
All of the equipment and the mast arms are very dated. And it's been some time since they've been replaced. These 2 intersections. There's been quite a bit of upgrades to traffic signals in the township over the last few years. These 2 intersections remain as needing what we refer to as full modernization, where we're basically looking to replace all the equipment, the controller, the mast arms, provide new ADA pedestrian facilities, the entire intersection up to current standards.
And are there other intersections that are going to need similar upgrades?
Not to this degree. The other intersection we did identify was Norristown Road and its intersection with the Ship Driveway and Gwinnett Estates. However, as part of the roadway improvements that will be completed by the developer for the Ship property, that intersection will be upgraded as part of those improvements. So that was a 3rd intersection that requires a lot of updates. But since that is part of the Ship project, we're identifying these to pursue grant funds.
Okay. Is there a routine evaluation of intersections, or is this something is an ongoing thing that you look every year to see what needs to be updated?
There's 2 parts to it. The signal maintenance contractor that you'll select through the bidding that we'll do, they'll perform an annual preventive maintenance check where they look at basic maintenance items in terms of looking for things that need to be repaired or adjusted for the intersections. And then we'll work in consultation with them to perform a more detailed analysis on a regular basis, but maybe not so much on an annual basis, where we'll take a harder dive into making sure that larger equipment type items are still within compliance and whether they need to be replaced and when. So it's an ongoing effort. Traffic signal technology is constantly changing, like any other type of technology. So it's something that the township, through the maintenance contractor and through our office, it's a routine process that we have to do to make sure that we're staying up with things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just to add, those other traffic signals that have been modernized in the past couple of years, we did fund that. We were successful in getting these two Arlie and Greenlight Go grants to do that work. So hopefully that bodes well for these new applications. But yeah, good work. Thank you, Chad.
Well, thank you.
Okay, any more questions from the supervisors? Any questions from members of the audience?
I don't see any.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I do have, Mr. Chairman, a question for Chad, or a point to make.
Mhm.
Chad, I've noticed coming southbound on Bethlehem Pike from the township building, hitting the main intersection there,
Mhm.
that the opposite side has an arrow for northbound on Sunnytown, which is everybody's aware of.
Mhm.
But I sat there on occasions when that arrow, people making the left-hand turn, that traffic lane was empty. And yet the arrow still stayed. The northbound traffic going northbound on Bethlehem Pike moved through the intersection. And the southbound was still delayed because the light did not change. I just want to pass that on for
Okay.
information's sake. And I don't know who regulates that timing, but I just wanted to point it out to you. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks. Well, yeah, we'll go out to the intersection and make sure that left turn phase is being called up when it should or when it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And if any adjustments need to be made, we'll take care of that in concert with Fred and his group.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chad,
Yes.
it's the Greenlight Go grant, so it's very similar to Arlie, I believe, but can you explain the difference?
Yeah, there's just some minor differences in terms of the types of improvements or the types of signal equipment that are eligible costs. It varies sometimes from year to year in terms of what's eligible or not, but with these programs. But they're very similar, in nature, and we've used both of them in Lower Gwinnett, as was mentioned before, and other municipalities. Really is a kind of a dual funding mechanism to hit improvements from two different funding sources, but they're very similar to each other. Arlie has a little bit more types of projects that can be eligible. They're just not signal related. There's other types of minor roadway safety improvements that are eligible and can be submitted for applications as well. So that's probably the biggest difference between the two, where Greenlight Go is more traffic signal focused.
But they are different funding sources,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Chad, can you tell us what the cost, I see in both of the memos, there is no cost related to each signal replacement?
That's one of the exercises we'll complete as part of the grant application. We have to submit an initial scoping form to PennDOT District 6 to review. One of the components of the scoping application is doing a preliminary construction cost estimate for the improvements that'll be included in the application. So once we have those numbers worked up and the number that we'll be requesting in the grant application, we'll provide an update to staff and the board on what those numbers are.
Is there limits to the Arlie and the Go Green grants?
There is. I can't recall the limits offhand. Both of these projects are well within what the typical limits for the programs are. We didn't recommend submitting both intersections on the same application because we did go back and take a look at recent awards over the last 2 or 3 years, and we didn't find any instances where a grant award was made for two intersections being fully modernized. So that's why we split the two up.
And I guess, is there any issue with them historically not being fully funded when they are funded?
There is the possibility that they don't award the full amount requested. If that would happen, then we would get back and take a look at the scope of improvements and determine what could be included and what would be completed at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any more questions from the board? Any questions from the audience?
I do not see any.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
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 Yeah, I thought we already voted, but
That was the Arley grant.
It was
All right.
2 grants.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is a resolution, extension of outdoor dining. Now, Jamie, why do we need another resolution for outdoor dining? Are you saying the last one's expired?
Yes, you had passed this same resolution a few months back, extending the outdoor dining, which again is under the emergency declaration. So that resolution is expiring. So this is just an extension of a resolution that you passed the previous time.
Hard to believe our 90 days went so quickly.
I know that did fly by.
It did. So are there any questions from the Board of Supervisors? Are there any questions from the public? Can I have a motion?
so moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, resolution for, this is the capital budget redevelopment allowance for the North Penn Volunteer Fire Company improvements. So for those in the audience that don't know, the state of Pennsylvania awarded North Penn Fire Company $1 million. But there's certain procedural things that have to take place. One of those things is a matching component of that. The Lower Gwinnett Board of Supervisors has agreed to pay $400,000 towards that match. And I believe the fire company is still looking for an additional $100,000 from their community up in North Wales, whether it's the borough or they raise it themselves, I'm not sure, but this is now the majority of what they need to improve the fire company. As most of you know, or may not know, fire service is very expensive. Our fire service is all volunteer. We're very fortunate to have Ambler Borough and North Wales Borough have the main fire stations in their locations, and the volunteers come from Lower Gwinnett, but primarily from the two boroughs. So we're very fortunate to have them. It would be a very burdensome proposition if we had to hire our own fire service and pay for our own trucks. A fire truck today is over $1 million. So we've recently, a couple of years ago, North Penn expanded their facility up there, and they purchased a new fire truck, a ladder truck, very expensive proposition. So at any rate, this is an application to the State Budget Redevelopment Assistant Funding Program for North Penn Fire Company. So we need to pass this resolution. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question. So the funding for North Wales Fire Company is authorized under legislative authority of the capital budget project, which is itemized as 2020-36. That funding will be available for 10 years. If North Penn's not able to come up with the matching dollars this year, they have 9 more years essentially to come up with that monies. Is our authorization going to extend the entire length of the time that the money will be held for them?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So
Can
the
you repeat
the RACP money that was authorized for them in the itemized budget 2020-036, you can go to the bill and see that it is authorized for them in that legislative year, and it extends for 10 years. They will have access to that money. It will be held for them for 10 years.
Right,
They have to come up
Right.
with the matching dollars and make the application and so forth and so on. I understand that we're authorizing them through this resolution. Is this going to only be for this year, or will this authorization carry forward with their authorization in the legislature?
Does the resolution expire?
Basically,
Yeah,
yeah.
I,
I don't know the answer to that. Neil, do you have any
I didn't
information?
prepare the resolution, so I can't opine as to what it says.
I guess my concern is if they aren't able to get the matching dollars needed to complete their application this year, they could still continue to search for it for a number of years. Would we then need to budget $400,000 to complete the matching dollars that are required for their application until they decide, or have they given us a time frame?
Well, we don't have a time frame that I'm aware of. When I talked to Frank Baxter about that, he's the president up there. We have had the $400,000 in our budget for several years now, but they just didn't get it was contingent on the state award of the $1 million. In the past years, they didn't get it. So we've held the money in the budget. So if they still can't get up the additional $100,000, we would then just leave the money in the budget until they could qualify for the $1 million. Does that help answer your question?
Not necessarily. I'm asking, are we comfortable holding this $400,000 for what could be many more years?
well, we can visit it annually.
In
Well,
the budget
does the
process.
authorization, I guess this might be a Neil question, does the authorization give them the authority to utilize it however, whenever they get the rest of the money, or is it annual?
I read the resolution to say that it's whenever, not necessarily on a year-to-year basis.
That's how I read it, which is why I was concerned and questioning. So is there a way for us
I'd like to
edit
make
it?
I'd like to make a comment if Danielle's done.
My next question was, is there a way for us to edit it so that we could at least review it annually? I'm done, Mr. Brandt.
Well, what you just said, I think Kathy mentioned that, and I do agree with that, Danielle, is take a look at it annually. What I want to state is with North Penn Fire Company and Wissahickon, we can't do enough for them because of the service they supply to this township on a volunteer basis. So I agree with you. Take a look at it every year and see where we're at. So,
I agree with what you're saying. I have no issue with giving the money, but in order for us to budget accurately, we
Yeah.
kind of need to have our heads up as to when they anticipate.
I agree with that.
happens.
I have a question. I'm sorry, but I thought we already discussed this in a previous board meeting. And
We
that-
did, but there was not a resolution.
Oh. Okay,
Okay, so to Danielle's point, we don't want this authorization hanging out there indefinitely for 10 years. So I propose that we table this and have our solicitor review the language of the resolution and make sure that we can review it and reauthorize it annually, pending North Penn getting the entire amount of funding that they need.
I second the motion.
Yeah, I agree. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Okay. Motion is, resolution's tabled. Next up, Ambler wastewater treatment intermunicipal agreement amendment. Oh, wow, this looks thrilling, right? So Jamie, could you fill us in?
This is just a amendment to this agreement, because, Upper Dublin is transferring, one of their pump stations into the Ambler wastewater treatment, plant. And it's going to change the allocation of percentages held in the treatment plant. So I believe Lower Gwynedd is at 36%. Upper Dublin will now go, their percentage will go higher and ours will actually go lower. So this is just going to amend this document so that there's percentages of ownership in that plant are reflected correctly, with this new flow coming into the plant from Upper Dublin.
Okay. Any questions from members of the board? Any questions from the public? All those in favor say aye. Oh, excuse me.
Aye.
Yeah, thank you. Aye, thank you. That motion passes. Everybody agree?
Didn't say aye, but I say aye now.
Okay.
I didn't hear the motion put forward,
Can I
but
have, let me do it again, right? Let me do it again. Can I have a motion?
so moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Next up is authorization to purchase spotted lanternfly swatters from the EAC. I think Mark Schaefer is the chairman of the EAC. Mark, could you fill us in, please?
Sure. A couple of years ago, we developed a swatter that said spotted lanternfly and was branded Lower Gwynedd EAC. And we gave them out at things like Pike Fest and other events. And they were a big hit, no pun intended. Our supply of them has been drawn down because people we're giving them away. And we just wanted to refill the supplies for upcoming events. The spotted lanternflies are here. They're not going away. They're now endemic to our part of Montgomery County and this part of Pennsylvania. And again, they are very popular giveaways that kind of remind people of Lower Gwynedd and the EAC and the services we try to provide. So this is just to order more supplies for that.
Okay. Jamie, do we have a cost for any of that?
The quote that was provided was $870 for 500 swatters.
Okay.
It is a slight increase over the last time we ordered, about $40 when we ordered them I think 18 months to 2 years ago. So
I make a motion to authorize the expenditure of $870 for 500 spotted lanternfly swatters
Tongue twister.
on behalf of the EAC.
Second the
That's a
motion.
mouthful.
Okay. We have a second, we have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is authorization to change the assumption rate at the pension liability plan for the police on the OPEB on the non-uniform. So I'll try to explain this a little bit. We have the finance director on here too, Chuck. So back in the Great Recession, our pension plan was not doing as well as we would have liked to have done. But we were in much better shape than some other townships. Since then, or just prior to the Great Recession, we changed advisors. And we have a group of professionals now and citizens in Lower Gwynedd Township who are on the pension board. And I've been on that board for almost 12 years now. So we went from somewhat underfunded and a little scary for a while to a really good, resilient pension plan now that is going to carry us well into the future. And based on the returns we received recently and based on the actuarial assumption and our investment advisor, we're in the members of the pension plan, we decided to change the assumption from 7.5 to 7.0. That's the assumed rate of return. So what does that mean? So it means in practical sense that Lower Gwinnett Township is well-funded, and our assumptions about our pension plan rate of return are much more reasonable and in line with what we can actually expect in the market. So a lot of townships, including Lower Gwinnett Township, changed or had a higher rate of assumption because it changed what was called the smoothing, how our pension plan appeared to the actuaries under the state guidelines. So in other words, it gave us some breathing room. So we've been now able to move our assumption back to 7%. I think perhaps that's the lowest it's ever been. So it gives us more breathing room in the future if we ever need to. But our pension fund now has slightly excess assets to our liabilities. And that's never happened before either that I'm aware of. So the pension board, along with the advisors, are recommending that we change our assumption to 7%. I know that's there's a lot of information there. And what does that really mean to Lower Gwinnett? It really means that we're in good financial condition. That's what it means. Are there any questions from the board? Or Chuck, do you have a better explanation than the one I just provided? You're on mute, Chuck. You're on mute again. You muted yourself and unmuted yourself. There
You
go.
pretty much covered it. It's just taking a more conservative approach, which we're able to do based on where the funding stands currently.
Okay, fewer words works well. So are there any questions from members of the board?
No, I would just like to make a comment though, and that is this is a prime example and how proud I am of the number of people that have volunteered to serve on subcommittees and using the talents within the township that we have. This is a great example, along with the EAC, all our subcommittees. It just satisfies me to no end to see the towns contributing back into the township where they live. And I'm just so proud of the fact that in 1993 it was started with my recommendation, and to have, I just salute the people that have given their times. And the last two agenda items are primary to that. And I'm just so proud for Lower Gwinnett, the elected officials, and the people actually that serve on their own. And they don't get the recognition that the board members may get, but they're the ones that are responsible. But it just puts me, for 35 years now to see this and have this come to fruition makes me proud. I just wanted to go on record saying that.
Well, and just to put an exclamation on that, this particular committee, the Investment Advisory Committee, they're very sophisticated. They are very accomplished in their investment field. And they've been with us for a good number of years and have served us well in terms of their counsel and recommendations, this obviously being one of them. I had a conversation with Steve Smith, one of the advisors today, to explain all this to me. And I endorse it. I understand it. And also Steve Smith is the EF Hutton in the room. So we're lucky to have them all. So I make a motion to adjust our assumptions for the, is it all the pensions?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, upon the Investment Advisory Board recommendation.
Kathleen, before I have a question.
Sure.
Before we vote on the motion. So this is a very naive question. If we think we have much more money in the pension fund than is required, do we still have to pay into that fund the same amount? we're only adjusting our assumptions on the income. We're not making adjustments to the actual inflow of money into the pension fund.
Well, that's actually quite a good question, right? So the state of Pennsylvania determines what we have to contribute based on our liabilities and the actuarial rate of assumption on the returns. So when you look at any particular snapshot in time, your rate of return that you're getting is built into your assumption, but you don't do it every year. The state says, okay, you take a snapshot for every couple of years, and that's your MMO, that's your minimum municipal obligation that the state requires the municipality, Lower Gwinnett in our particular case, in order to contribute. And that rate of contribution is figured by the actuarial assumptions they give us, and then they tell us what the MMO is. And that's what we have to contribute for however long the period is, really regardless of what we return, because the markets can go up or down. So you have market risk. So all of that is built into the actuarial assumptions. But the short answer to your question is our MMO contributions go down as the assets in the plan go up. Now, we don't have excess assets. We're fully funded assets, right? So in other words, our obligations don't exceed the assets that are in the plan, but we still have to make the contributions. But the contributions can be lower based on the actuarial assumptions. And I don't know what the current MMO is. Jamie, do you know what it is for the upcoming year?
Don't, Chuck would know that.
Or Chuck, do you happen to know what that is? You're on mute, Chuck.
I don't have it in front of me, but the MMO is made up of two pieces. It's the normal cost, which is based on your current payroll, and then an amortization of the unfunded liability. So in our case, the unfunded liability has gone away, at least for now. So that piece of the MMO will go away, and thus the MMO will be lower. And we won't see that until the actuary computes the MMO for 2022, which will be done later this year.
So does that help answer your question, Tessie?
Yeah, I think I'm getting it.
Right.
It's a lot to think about, but so the upshot of this is that it is possible that we're not going to pay into the pension fund as much as we have been.
We should be able to make lower contributions. That is a true.
Okay.
Correct. Right.
All
The
right,
better our returns, the lower our obligations. Correct.
Okay. Very good. That's very good news then. Thank you.
Yep. It is. It is. Are there any questions from the members of the audience?
There is not.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
There you have a motion. Just need a second.
Okay. Who's the second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is the 2021 Township event at Wissahickon High School Stadium or parking lot thereabouts. So Kathy Morris, you're on mute.
I got it.
Can you shed any light on how this is going?
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for putting this at the end. I just flew into another meeting, so thank you. Thanks for doing that. So really, obviously, you know, the resource person is Sandy Fight. You know, she's done this for so long for events for Lower Gwinnett. So I'm going to have Sandy go through the details, but I just thought I would fly high a little bit, and because you had some questions at the joint meeting that we had with the Parks and Recs and the Board of Supervisors about looking at a date. So the good news was we could find a date because the Eagles are either playing on a Monday night or they were playing at Sunday night. So we came up with a date of September 26th. I think, you know, looking at some other schedules that are going on, I know that Ambler's doing their thing the following weekend. there was a possibility of a date in October, but that's kind of late. So this was the date we came up with. And we thought, you asked about time. So we looked at the time of 12 to 4, kind of shortening it because it's a Sunday afternoon. So we thought just a nice little afternoon event. Another question about custodial. Sandy's going to get into more of the details about the facility, about the high school. But yes, we can use their bathrooms and access to all that. Parking looks great. So there's plenty of parking. We did talk about maybe having people help us put people in parking spots and that kind of thing. I think the budget is fine. I think in the budget from Pike Fest, we'll stay within those limits. You know, that's what we have to do. Looking into music groups, I think we can definitely do that. You have to contact the principals, so we found out, but I already started contacting a couple, just, you know, asking, and yes, they're interested, so that would be good. I think that was it for mine. So I'm sitting now, the big information was about the use of the field and the other facilities. So Sandy's on. She's going to talk to you about that part.
Yeah, so last Monday, Craig and I had a conference call with Wade Coleman and Jerry Moore over at the school district. And because we are Lower Gwinnett Township and we do have a reputation of, you know, working very well with the school district, they trusted our decisions and the way that we run programs and events, and that we have a higher standard in looking at things and being safe in how we plan things. They did say that we could use the stadium, specifically the turf area can be used for school bands and other entertainment to come in and use the field. We did get a little bit more clarification on using the stands so that families could go up in the stands and actually look down onto the bands that are performing. There is bathrooms right there in the stadium as well that we're able to use. I know that we had discussed about the cost was also a question, and because at the time we didn't get an approved time frame for the event, they did state the only thing the cost that we would have to pay for was the custodial cost for the staff who are actually going to be there for the day. On Tuesday, when Craig and I went over and we actually walked the stadium, we were able to do that because the school was closed because of elections. So we were able to walk on the field, walk on the stadium, look at the parking lots. Obviously, there's a lot of parking from the Dagger Road parking lot, the high school parking lot, the elementary school parking lot, and the middle school parking lot. So we don't have any worries with parking. Township staff, the Public Works Department would be there that day, as they've done for previous events, for helping with the parking and communicating what lots would be full, where open spaces are, and directing people. And Craig and I, you know, we had kind of brainstormed an idea of, because we had just heard, you know, we listened to everybody, and where we could put the food trucks can be outside. We could have some information booths, basically being like the police, the fire, the ambulance, the EAC, the Park and Recreation Board, the township, township table like we've done in the past, and having space for those individuals. In looking at the size of the stadium and the field and the track, we felt that some of those information tables may get lost in the stadium itself. In addition, if we have the band in there playing, if someone's trying to talk to one of those individuals, it may be difficult for them to hear. So we had actually maybe thought about putting those tables out in the parking lot with the food trucks. We would have, we would also have, what do I want to call it? Tables and chairs like we've done for Pike Fest as well. So, but we have not discussed this with the Park and Recreation Board yet because we have our meeting tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. But they have a kind of a layout of kind of Sandy, tell me, it's like the parking space, I think that where.
So it's, Yeah,
the
so
backfill, or-
whenever they put in the new pool, they put in a bus lane and a parking, like a bus parking lot area. It's kind of a half circle area that we could actually put the food trucks in that area. We could put the information tables in that area and the area for people to sit and eat their food there as well. It could be nicely contained. And I know that Mr. Brandt had also discussed in that meeting we had on the 12th about amusements. My concern about putting the amusements in the stadium is that we couldn't secure them to the ground with stakes. We would only be relying on sandbags. And Craig and I were actually looking, if you actually look at the front of the high school, to the right of the square gym, or this gym in the front of the building, there is a small area that we could put similar amusements that we have had at Pike Fest and at the Country Picnic in that area.
Okay.
So it's kind of like containing it in one area, and then using the field for the talent. And I'm saying it talent because it could be music, dancing, and maybe something else. Who knows what that could be? I'm thinking that it's all about Lower Gwinnett. That's what, so it's the talent of Lower Gwinnett, and food, and the services, and the information about Lower Gwinnett and who we are. So I thought that with the way that it's set up, and I know that Sandy and Craig had talked that you're not allowed to have any food on the field at all. So you already have to bring the people away from the field for the food. So we thought we'd contain that in one area.
Sounds like a lot of work got done here.
Well, go to the resources, and I have to honestly thank Craig too, because he stepped up and helped Sandy and got on the phone right away. And because they're the resource of knowing all this. So that's what I hope we answered all the questions. I've been going through this back and forth, but I think that's what we have so far, and then we'll see what you all think to move forward.
Okay, that sounds pretty promising. Are there any questions from the supervisors?
I have comments I want to just make, and that is to Kathy, Sandy, Craig, and Kathy Mars. I've been in favor of this from day one. The township needs something. The high school's there. It's the end of September. People want to get out. You have a school district that's willing to work with us to utilize the stands, this loudspeaker system to announce the different entertainers that may be put together. Certainly the food trucks outside. It's absolutely doable. I think it will be done. I think the date is a special date because of the fact that I think the Eagles played Dallas away on Monday night. And the school district is willing to work with us. I mean, we had a couple questions, and I went back to them the second time, and we got them answered. So I think it's a go, and I want to thank the people I already mentioned. The Park and Rec Board, like Kathy said, will meet tomorrow night. And it's a good opportunity for the township. It's something we need. So I don't have any questions. I just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Are there any questions from members of the audience? I'll take that as a no.
Not see any. There are none.
There are none. Well, Mr. Brandt, on our meeting, I believe it was on the 12th, we told you, or at your recommendation, we would have this event, and you were looking for a vote. And what we decided to do was to wait and see if this was even possible. And it certainly looks like it is. And I would just like to say congratulations. This sounds like a great event is possible. And you're the one that put forward the initiative here. So I want to say thank you. And who knew that things would turn out the way they have. It sounds like it's going to be an exciting event. And I'd like to have a motion to approve the event to be scheduled on the 26th of September over at the high school.
Yeah, but before we vote on this, so Kathy and Sandy, do you feel like you're going to have enough folks helping out so this doesn't fall on Kathy and Sandy to pull off? So do you feel confident that we can get enough people, volunteers, to help pull this off? Mr. Brandt has said he's going to help. So I just don't want the burden to fall on you unexpectedly. And
Tessie, thanks for asking that question, because that was going to be like my next comment or question. What I think is, I think for maybe the right word is logistics, securing things with the school district, with the school. I think Sandy's the point person for that, and I'm her support, that we have. But I was saying to Sandy, what I think we could use a committee for, and I'd love to have a committee for, was working with this, getting our Lower Gwinnett talent together, because I think that's a calls and things like that, following up with people, and then timing that, right? How to do that and get them up on to perform. So I think we're going to need help with that, and we're definitely going to need help the day of, just setting up, during, and cleaning up. So the answer is yes, we will need help. So either we could advertise, or I was thinking about this, how to respond to you, and I wanted to tell you that I handled 1,000 volunteers for when the Pope visited to Philadelphia. So I could do maybe 30 people, 40 people. I can handle that. So I think
doubt.
no doubt. I would take that off of Sandy and handle the volunteers.
I'm sure you and Sandy are very capable. I just don't want to put you in the position of laying this burden on you unless you are fully behind it. I think it's a great idea, and you guys have done some great legwork, vetting this. But the
volunteers, I think we can get them.
Okay.
Mhm.
I heard some concern in our previous meeting that this was kind of being laid on us. I don't want you to feel like you can't say no, but I guess that's the issue. Even though I think we can get volunteers, and I think it can be, enough people to help out.
Yeah, I think we can too. And I think people will be excited about it. So I think it'll be a good thing.
Very good.
Yeah.
Mark, I'd like to make another comment, if I may.
Go
But
ahead.
if the other supervisors want to speak first, that's fine. I'd like to challenge my fellow supervisors to do something that I told Kathy Morris and the staff is I am more than willing to make phone calls to previous people that have worked, people that haven't worked and are looking for an opportunity to participate in such a great day. And I like to challenge my fellow supervisors to the people they know in the township that are looking for an area where they can help with a project that is going to bring us all together as Lower Gwinnett residents. And so what I'm saying is that, and what I'm asking is my fellow supervisors to help recruit so Kathy has enough soldiers. And I certainly are going to do that myself, but I wanted to challenge my fellow supervisors. That's all.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, we're good, Ed. I think we're good. So
Okay.
Kathy's going to have to tell us what she needs.
Okay.
All right. She's got to drive the bus here.
I will.
And we'll make sure she has the resources that she needs.
Mhm. And I'll keep you posted, and I'll let you know what's going on, and, report to you regularly.
Okay. So Ed, she's the boss. Got it?
Oh, Well, from her expertise of when the Pope visited, this is a piece of cake for her.
I was one of those 1,000 volunteers and I saw firsthand what this woman is capable of. Yeah, this event is in good hands, Ed.
I'm sure it is.
So Ed, she's leading. We got to follow her, get out of the way. One or the other.
That's
She
right.
must be related. She must be related to my wife of 53 years, who just when she says she's going to do it and get out of the way, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. I'm used to saying yes to ladies.
That's a good practice. Good practice.
Well,
So I think I need a motion here to proceed. Do I have a motion?
I would be honored to make that motion
You should.
Do I have
to
a second?
proceed
I'll
as
second.
outlined.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks you, Kathy and Sandy.
Sandy, thank you, Sam.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Next on the agenda is citizens' comments, concerns, or questions for items not on the agenda. If you have any questions or issues, please raise your hand. Okay.
I see it
We
in
do
the chat.
have one comment. Looks like
Okay.
I'm gonna ask to unmute them.
I think I did it. Hi, I'm Karen
Yes.
McCreevy. I'm part of Karen and Dick. We are residents up on North Surrey Drive for 30 years now. And my question is, as part of the 202 remodeling out there, I actually sent a question to PennDOT about putting up brake retarders prohibited signs along the stretch, because what historically has happened, especially at Town in 202, is at 3, 4 in the morning, these trucks come along and there's nobody on the road, but they're using their brake retarders. I know Upper Gwinnett has already posted Town Pike above our township as brake retarders prohibited going into North Wales. So I did pose that question, and yesterday I got an answer back from them requesting, let me read this in this email. The department will conduct a study to determine if a brake retarder restriction is warranted upon receipt of a letter from the municipality manager's office requesting a study. And I have the person's name. So I was wondering how we could address that. As I said, it's part of, they're doing the upgrade of this. So I was hoping we could maybe get that to get us all a better night's sleep down here, right down the hill from that.
You know, Karen, this did come up actually several years ago as part of a noise issue that was out of the EAC, or actually it was Gwinnett Green back then. But Chad, since you're on the line here, can you author or have Craig author a letter here to request the study? How does this work?
I've got the person's name. I can forward someone this email. It's Don Centofante, Traffic Study Supervisor, and I have his phone number and I have his email as part of this, and I've got the concern number. So I can forward this email to anyone who would like to receive it.
Yeah, if you could forward that email to Craig and Jamie, then they'll forward that to me and I'll work with them to put a letter together addressed to Don. We know Don well and we work with him often. So once the request gets in, past history of Don, it gets its due attention. It does take some time as they get a lot of these requests throughout PennDOT District 6, but we will certainly work with him on that.
Well, I kind of requested from Hancock to Schoolhouse Lane, but then I called, I thought part of that was Upper Gwinnett, and I called North Wales and he said, no, that Lower Gwinnett is from Swedeford all the way across. So that I didn't realize we actually went across 202 down in this area. But he said, I had requested Hancock, but I'm like, well, Sweetsburg would work fine too. Because I don't know if it's happening all the way down at Hancock.
Okay, Karen, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm agreeing with you. Those brake retarders at night, that noise carries a long way.
Yes, and I don't think those walls are going to do anything. And they appear to be much shorter walls than up by like Rhodes Garden. They appear to be probably one panel shorter.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'll get these over to you guys.
Okay, Jamie, has anybody else got their hand up?
I do not see anybody else.
Okay, on to the manager's report. Jamie, do you have anything from us?
Just, I don't know if anybody's seen it yet, but the township did receive the Monco 2040 grant for the Penland Pike pedestrian crossing project at Dagger Road. Chad's office submitted the grant application and the grant award is $61,400. And so we'll move forward with paperwork for that. And that project will be, we'll pursue that project.
Good news, great news.
Yeah. The other item is the just that we had the e-cycle on May 15th and that went really well. It was a little backed up when we first started. A lot of people came really early. We had people came earlier than 8 a.m. so they were parked in the lot. So we got through that though, and then it went pretty smooth. And the only other thing is that the offices will be closed on Monday, May 31st for Memorial Day.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Okay, supervisors, Mr. Brandt, any comments?
Yes, I'd like to have the staff touch base to have a fire in a emergency subcommittee meeting. I don't recall having one this year. And I know Al Comley and the chief and the fire marshals would be involved. So if Jamie could put that on to-do list to schedule something like that. And the other thing I'd like and the chief is probably listening, or his lieutenant is, I'd like to just make a note to him, have him make a note. I've noticed excessive speeding from Norristown on Norristown Road from the 5 Point intersection heading towards McKean, especially eastbound. I guess they want to get out of Dodge, and once they make that turn and head eastbound, so I just want to have the chief make note of that. I mean, the experiences of me being over there and running there myself, it's like you better get in the right-hand lane and get out of the way. So there are 2 points I just wanted to make. I don't need comments tonight from those individuals, but that's all I had. And I think it was a very good meeting, Mark, and thanks for chairing it. I think we accomplished a lot, and I wish my fellow supervisors and staff a happy Memorial Day, especially coming out of this pandemic. It will be one heck of a Memorial Day celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Kathleen.
Thank you. Nothing other than happy Memorial Day. Have a safe holiday and enjoy your maskless little selves.
Okay. Tessie. You're on mute, Tessie.
Yes, I said no further comments, so, appropriate that I was on mute. But thanks to the supervisors, thanks to the volunteers who got all the information for the event to be held now in the autumn. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Danielle.
I guess I wanted to bring Well, first I wanted to thank Sandy and Kathy for all they did, and Craig for gathering that information so quickly. We know you only had 2 weeks and appreciate the timeliness of you getting it to us. But I also wanted to highlight that we're approaching June, and June is Pride Month. And I wanted us to consider in our municipality honoring our LGBT community and our youth, and joining with our other municipalities, including Upper Gwynedd, Upper Dublin, Ambler, Hatboro, Upper Moreland, East and West Norton, Conshohocken, Plymouth Meeting, the Montgomery County Community College, as well as Gwinnett Mercy College, and considering to raise the pride flag. There's many reasons why I believe that it would be welcoming to both businesses, youth, and community members that identify as LGBT. But I think that also we need to join in our community, our larger community in Montgomery County, and speak in support of the LGBT community. So I would like to have the township manager or assistant manager find out what's needed, as far as we only have currently 1 flagpole, as far as getting an additional flagpole and raising the flag. So I'm going to put that forward as a motion.
Well, I hadn't given any thought to it. I will, let's,
I would like
Yeah.
to second that motion.
I know that we
don't-
only meet once in June, so this technically is our last meeting until the end of June. So if that information could be gathered so that we could raise the flag in June at some point, that's what the motion is about.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
So just, are we gathering information, or are we voting to install another flagpole and raise a rainbow flag?
So I'm asking them to gather the information as far as the cost associated with a flagpole and raising the pride flag.
Where do you want the pole?
I mean, those kinds of things are, I guess, part of the gathering of information. So typically it's in the area where the American flag is, but I don't know if there's room in our area. So the gathering that information so that we could make a formal vote to raise it within the month of June.
Okay.
All right, so your motion really is to figure this out,
Yes.
right? Figure out cost, location, logistics,
Mhm.
that type of thing. So, okay, so we have, so
And
Kathy,
in timeframes for ascertaining them and potentially,
yeah, we have to move pretty quickly,
yes.
or we're gonna run out of time. So, so Tessie and Danielle had voted aye. Kathleen or Ed?
Well, if we're gathering information, I don't have a problem gathering information. I'm just thinking, I'm not against it. It's just that if we start recognizing one particular group, how many groups do we draw the line to? But as Danielle restated, that she asked for us to take a look at cost and so forth.
Just to address your concerns, Mr. Brandt, because I share them, I wouldn't want any group that maybe has negative connotations to have the ability to request to raise their flag. So there, I do have a draft resolution I could share with the board and Neil that kind of outlines the parameters. But the first part is kind of getting the information as far as what we need to do, where it would be, and how much the cost would be.
I'd have no problem with that, so I would be a yes.
Okay, I'm a yes. Kathleen?
Yeah, I'll defer to my fellow supervisor. Sure.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
All right, so, well, I just, as it was mentioned just now, we go to a monthly schedule. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 22nd of June. And we do this June, July, August. Do we do September, Jamie?
It's just from June through August. September, we go back to the double.
Right, okay. So that's just so people would know. I would like to wish everybody a happy holiday and be safe out there. The more people around the road, more people are out and about in the restaurants, and that's all a really good thing. And it sounds like we're going to have a great party in September. Looking forward to that. So I'd like to thank everybody for their hard work. This meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Good night.
Bye.
Good
Bye
night.
now.